Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, hello, good morning. What a gorgeous Monday morning. It is, in terms of numbers, April 22nd, 2013. And let's just, all I want to say is I hope this week is a little less news-worthy than last. We're still obviously dealing with last week's endless series of big news stories. Oh, so let me just say this. I think I was heard to say sometime last week, well, we're all going to know about Chechnya now. And I mentioned that I have noted throughout the years that the only way Americans ever learn anything about geography or geopolitics is when, we're forced to. So it is always something as horrific as a terrorist attack that gets our attention, and maybe for a minute or two, and we look up and start to realize there's a world out there, and there are things happening in the world which we know nothing about, or we don't think has anything to do with us, so who cares? And all of a sudden, all that is blown up. So I said that we're going to get a geography lesson, and I swear it was like the next second I'm looking through my Twitter account, and I see that people are mistaking Chechnya for the Czech Republic.
Oh my God.
And so there are, let's see, here's some of the tweets that were out there. Chechnya, the Czech Republic has good beer, beautiful women, and men who kill. The devil take the Czech Republic. We should bomb it. Americans' ignorance, when it's on full display, is an awesome thing to behold. Chechnya has absolutely zero to do with the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic, well, never mind. Here's another tweet. Dad's been texting people all day telling them not to go to Czechoslovakia. Okay. So, I found some other things, instances of where Americans get so mixed up about geographically. I'll just let you know what they are. Apparently, a lot of Americans do not differentiate between Australia and Austria. Never mind. No, so apparently there are gazillions of Americans who, if they hear Australia, they're thinking Austria. Or if they hear Austria, so, I mean, these people think there are kangaroos in Austria. Let's just put it that way. Also, Sweden and Switzerland get mixed up. And you see, all it takes is having sw, and Americans can't keep them straight. So Jessica Alba was known to say a few years back that she preferred to be neutral, like Sweden. What she meant is neutral, like Switzerland. What was I watching last night? Oh, I guess I had 60 Minutes on in the background, and then the next show took over, which would have been, what, The Amazing Race, which I never watch. And yet the audio was on. I was in my kitchen, and the clue was that these idiot Americans running around the globe had to identify who said, tear down this wall. What American president or something said, tear down this wall? Well, it was, I mean, a few of them knew. Some of them were saying, like, Clinton, Roosevelt, and then where is that wall? China? It was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. How much? We don't know. Okay, here's another one we get mixed up. Slovakia and Slovenia, and I'll raise my hand and say I'm one there. I wouldn't be able to point either of those out, and they do sort of absolutely come together. Slovakia was once part of Czechoslovakia. Slovenia was once part of Yugoslavia. Okay, you got that straight? No, me either. Also, Uruguay and Paraguay, they're sort of right next to each other there, down South America way. But they ain't the same country, and I think we're to be forgiven that one. It's things like Austria and Australia and Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, and Chechnya that are just mind-blowingly stupid. In regard to Boston, I only have one more thing I want to say. You feel free to bring up anything you want. Then I'm going to move on to other issues and topics because we haven't been paying attention to an awful lot by virtue of our attention being riveted on Boston. With the capture of the younger brother, immediately, of course, there has to be all kinds of controversy. The controversy about Miranda rights, the controversy about whether or not he should be given a trial in our criminal justice system, or if, as Lindsey Graham and John McCain and a bunch of other Republicans say, he should be treated as an enemy combatant and, I guess, hustled off to Gitmo to be waterboarded. This, despite the fact that this kid is an American citizen. And he committed a crime in America. Last time I look, when an American citizen commits a crime in America, they're not an enemy combatant. They're a criminal. He's a murderer. So it's astonishing to me that anyone would think that, again, we disregard our own laws just because we're freaked out. I mean, we somehow disrespect our own laws and our system's ability to acquire justice. It blows me away, actually. Charlie Pierce in Esquire magazine pointed this out in a brilliant way. Unlike most Americans, he knows American history. And he remembered another incident in Boston that happened quite a few years back, in which Americans were killed, and killed by an enemy, it certainly could be said. And historically, we call this event the Boston Massacre. Do you recall this? This is in colonial times. The Boston Massacre, when British soldiers fired upon Americans. And those soldiers were arrested. And everyone wanted to just string them up without a trial. They were enemy combatants, certainly. They were, in fact, soldiers. Did we set up a special court where we could get around all of the principles that supposedly we held dear? No. In fact, someone whose name you might know stepped up to pro bono represent the hated British soldiers. You know who that was? A guy named John Adams, who would go on, of course, to become a president of these United States. That was Boston in the 1700s. And that Boston, under attack, hewed to its then new principles of justice. Didn't go all wobbly, didn't freak out, didn't start saying, no, we got to torture them and get every piece of information out of these damn redcoats we can and blah, blah, blah. We don't owe them anything. And stop and think about it. These redcoats were not, as the current case is, the current, what's his name, Joker. They were not American citizens. They were soldiers. They were essentially enemy combatants. And John Adams, a lawyer in Boston, stepped up and said, I will represent them. And later in life, writing about that time in history, he wrote this. And would that Representative Peter King in New York and Lindsey Graham read what John Adams wrote about defending these other culprits in another Boston massacre. I had, said John Adams, no hesitation in answering that counsel ought to be the very last thing that an accused person should expect in a free country. That the bar ought to, in my opinion, be independent and impartial at all times and in every circumstance. And that persons whose lives were at stake, the defendants, ought to have the counsel they preferred, and that every lawyer must hold himself responsible not only to his country, but to the highest and most infallible of all tribunals for the part he should act. He must therefore expect from me no art, nor address, no sophistry or prevarication in such a cause, nor anything more than fact, evidence, John Adams, ladies and gentlemen, representing enemy combatants, redcoats, in Boston after they massacred innocent Boston residents. John Adams saying, in America, we will give them counsel that they want, and we will go to the mat to defend them, because we will defend them with fact, evidence, and law. There it is, right? Charlie Pierce, bringing the point home, says this: these were British soldiers in the streets of Boston firing on crowds. John Adams did not recognize a public safety exception to their right to counsel. We stood up then to an empire here for the right to judge our own people for their own crimes by our own laws. We can do this thing here. Hell, we invented this thing. Seeing Dzhokhar Tsarnaev walk into an ordinary courtroom in an ordinary courthouse on an ordinary day as possible would be worth 100 healing services and 1,000 well-sung national anthems and 1,000,000 waving flags in terms of restating who and what we are. Wow. Far as I'm concerned, case closed. Here's another thing coming in a little bit out of left field that I came upon, but suggests that in our past, we were not as filled with retribution and vengeance and a desire to inflict as much pain and suffering as we could on those who caused us pain and suffering. Something has happened to us. We are not as steadfast as we were when John Adams stepped in there. And I was reading a review of a book about Geronimo. Remember him? Geronimo. It's more than just a word we say when we jump out of an airplane or whatever. Geronimo! Geronimo, of course, was a extraordinary warrior himself who battled the American army. He was an Apache warrior, maybe the last great warrior. And he has gone down in American history in many unusual ways. But the fact is he killed a lot of Americans. He killed a lot of soldiers. He killed settlers. He and his warriors did unspeakable things to some of those they killed. It was, they tortured, they mutilated, all of that. And finally, he was captured, or in fact just surrendered. Couldn't do it anymore. He surrendered to the U.S. military. He had over 5,000 American soldiers after him. The Mexicans were after him too. This was a terrorist on the run. And he surrendered. And we let him surrender. We didn't blow him away. This is 1886. 1886. Almost 150 years ago. That America. And when Geronimo surrendered, he said this to his captors. Once I moved about like the wind. Now I surrender to you. And that is all. Okay, let's imagine this happened right now. What would we do with him? Huh? What would we do with him? Well, for one thing, we definitely seek the death penalty. He killed a lot of us. Tortured us. We would give him no quarter. There would be cries to, of course, send him to Gitmo, torture him, find out everything he knew. What did America do then to Geronimo? We marched him back to Arizona, and we put him in captivity of some sort at Fort Sill. He ended up at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. And then the review I read doesn't fill in how then the rest happens, because I'm looking at a picture of Geronimo in 1904 driving a Model T Ford. So, we obviously didn't kill him. And in fact, he eventually went free. He adopted European dress. He sent his sons to schools and even claimed that he said at one point, I have become a white man. He marched in Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural parade. He had become a kind of celebrity. He showed up at, this is Geronimo, okay? He killed, tortured, massacred American citizens. And America didn't kill him. They put him in jail and clearly eventually let him out. He lived into the 20th century. So here's my question. When did we get so nasty? John Adams, without a thought, represents redcoats? Geronimo is not only kept alive, but imprisoned and then goes on his way somehow. This would never happen today. This kid lying in a hospital bed in Boston ain't ever going to march in an inaugural parade as an old man. We intend to kill him. I thought, as we progress historically, I thought we were supposed to get less vengeful, less primitive in our reaction to those who have harmed us. How do you explain this history I'm telling you today? Caller, go ahead.
Morning. Hey, Lynn.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, Nelson Mandela, didn't he kill his people before he became such a, United States loves him now?
Didn't he kill people, Nelson Mandela?
Yes.
No, I don't think
in
so.
In his country. I'm almost positive I read that.
Well, if he did, he was doing it. He was the underdog there. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Mandela was part of a. I don't I don't think so. I wish I knew my history better. But
I heard he was, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but look what they did. When Mandela got out, he spends most of his life practically in this godforsaken prison for trying to get rights for his people in their own country. He gets out, and he ends up becoming president of that country, and he, too, does not seek vengeance. He sets up these reconciliation councils. And this is so much more highly evolved than where we are. We have become so bloodthirsty, ugly, vengeful. And I understand that reaction. It's a human reaction. But we should remember that we were not always like that. That was not who we were. We're losing track of who we are. I'll have to look up Mandela. You got my curiosity.
Okay, then.
Thank you. Thank you. Colette writes, Jessica Alba was correct. Sweden is Switzerland? What are you talking about? She meant Sweden. They were also neutral during World War II. Well, were they? Maybe. Again, I'm an American. My ignorance knows no bounds. But when I read this about Geronimo over the weekend, that's all I could think of is, what? We didn't kill him? Whoa, he's a damn lucky Indian, ain't he, that he doesn't live now in the much more civilized 21st century. He's a much, much luckier man that he lived in the brutal time he lived in, when there was frontier justice. Here he is. He's driving a Model T Ford and wearing a top hat. We let him live. And he was already an old man. He was 62, I think, when he surrendered. So he's 80-something driving this car. We let him live out his life. This 19-year-old has a lot of life left. We're already saying, I heard Charles Schumer saying, we seek the death penalty. What has happened to us? What the hell has happened to us as we've become extraordinarily civilized and powerful? I'm just asking. I'm taking a break.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
War changed you. In 1941, as Poland was being invaded by other sovereign forces, one village in Poland was the site of unspeakable horror. As Russian and German forces pressed in, almost all of the Jews in the village were tortured and killed. For decades, the crime was blamed on the Nazis. More recent evidence suggests the villagers themselves may have committed the atrocity. PICT presents Our Class by Tadeusz Słobojenik in an English version by Ryan Craig. Our Class is an unforgettable theater experience. Through May 4th, visit picttheater.org for tickets. That's picttheater.org. PICT performs at the Stephen Foster Memorial at the University of Pittsburgh.
Go to barkbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% for Red Lobster and Marshall's gift cards. Supplies are limited. barkbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. barkbargains.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381. 888-848-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, let's do an email or two here. David writes, can you tell us where you found that John Adams quote? I've been Googling it and can't find it. I found it in, if you go online and look for Esquire magazine, I got it from a Charlie Pierce piece in Esquire magazine online. Esquire.com/blogs/politics. And Charlie Pierce, just look for him. And I don't have the full one here. I just rip things. Let me see. It is titled "The Day After Midnight on Franklin Street." This was posted yesterday. Esquire magazine. Is that mind-blowing or what? I'm still, I can't, Jess just said, I can't get my head around it. Can't get the head around that our reaction was different. And I'm more blown away by, I think, the Geronimo thing. Johnny, we are not at the moment living up to the values and principles and creed set down in the 19th century, 18th century by our founding fathers, including John Adams, who were much more at threat than we are. Much more, believe me. And for a U.S. Army to finally have Geronimo where they want him, and they not only don't kill him, it's alien to us, isn't it? What's happened to us? I'm just asking. The fact that we acted that way with the Boston Massacre, the first, and with Geronimo, who had the blood of many Americans on his hands, and the country went on and prospered. What does that tell us? When did we become such cowering and bloodthirsty people? When? Did 9/11 do that to us? Incredible. Oh, so I've been sent the picture again of Geronimo, and it says that the picture was taken in 1905 in Oklahoma. And they say there are 3 other photographs of Geronimo from that same day. One showing him with several mounted Army soldiers. At the time, get this, Geronimo was still imprisoned at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Well, that's imprisonment at Fort Sill?
Driving around.
Look at how we imprison enemy combatants now. Or you really can't, because we only have a sense of what goes on at Gitmo, where half of the inmates are starving themselves to death now on a hunger strike that none of us are paying any attention to. So yes, this is a prisoner we're looking at. Well, how the hell did he march in the parade, the inaugural parade, in shackles? No. Okay, so one shows him with several mounted Army officers, and another shows him standing beside a dead buffalo. And Okay, whatever. They were just trying to take pictures of him, and they would sell the pictures as postcards. I mean, he was quite a historical relic, I suppose. But, okay, so technically he's still a prisoner of the United States. Wow. You're a lucky man, Geronimo. I never thought I'd say that to you, but you're a lucky man that you weren't born into 21st century American justice. Jeez. Here's something that made my blood run cold. I'll just pass it on to you. The Chicago Tribune, it's called the Tribune Company. They own a number of newspapers. You'll be surprised to know, including the Los Angeles Times. Did you know that? All owned on Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, the Baltimore Sun, the Hartford Courant, the Orlando Sentinel, a lot of really sort of iconic, really great newspapers. They're all for sale. And the owner, Tribune Company, wants to sell them not piecemeal, but would like to sell them as a block to one person. Guess who apparently wants to buy them? Because the one thing they think they're missing in their effort to influence American politics and to pull us further to the right are newspapers, media. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, who are worth billions and billions and billions, would be able to pick up all these newspapers like that. It will be among the largest sale of newspapers by circulation in the country. The LA Times is the fourth largest paper in the country. The Chicago Trib is number 9. Some of the other papers that are in play are in battleground states where their influence could be huge if you're trying to alter the political landscape. 2 of them are in the always important battleground state of Florida, the Orlando Sentinel and the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale. I'm just here to tell you there are other people bidding, but there are a lot of people bidding just for the LA Times, including what's his name, Burkle, who has helped rescue the penguins. And but ideally, the seller, the Tribune Company, would like to not dither and sell the Sun to one and the Trib to another and the Times to this one. They would like it to go as a full package, and very few people have the means or the motivation to buy all those newspapers. But the Koch brothers apparently see an opening here to help them spread their particular form of what they consider American, values, which have to do with essentially no government at all getting in the way of their business, no government at all, and of ensuring that the working people do not organize, are not represented. It's amazing. I saw it and my blood ran cold. Here's Andrew Sullivan. And here again, any effort to put this in context seems to fall on deaf ears, but here, give it a shot again. He writes, as ghastly, evil, overwhelming, tragic as the events this week in Boston and Texas and the Capitol Hill mailrooms have been, it is easy to forget in our oh-so-American narcissism, enveloped in the wall-to-wall coverage that makes our present catastrophe feel like the most important event in the universe, how safe and how secure Americans truly are by any rational standard. Terror shatters us here precisely because ours is not a terrifying place compared to so much of the rest of the world. And also not really an objectively terrifying time compared to other periods in the American past. And yet we react like weak-kneed cowards. If I hear one more person say, "Oh, I'm not going to let my kid go to the Pittsburgh Marathon," or "I wouldn't be," blah, blah, blah. I mean, just beyond belief. What the hell are we made of? Now we let these traumas consume us. And now our desperate longing, fueled by media, I might say, to know, to find easy, immediate answers, confines us, makes us frantic, reduces us to our basest instincts. And we need to push back against it. God knows we need to push back. All right, Diane writes, hang on. Diane writes, thanks. I wondered what was wrong with me when I was watching TV and found myself feeling so frightened for the perp, huh? And then she says, maybe there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah. All those Bible believers in this country, and they seem to forget that line about vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I know it would be a very unpopular thing to say, but I am so against killing this kid. I am so against it. Everything we've been told about him is he was bright, he was okay, he was likable, obviously falls under the sway of his brother. This kid has a lot of life left in him. And who knows what good he could end up doing later, much later. So, in the 19th century, in the 18th century, we had evidence that our administration of justice was, in fact, less vengeful than it is now. And all that tells me is we're being pulled in the wrong direction. We're being pulled in the wrong direction. It's a shame. I cannot tell you how many people have said things to me. I had a friend call from Virginia and say, and I think of her as, well, I think she's a Republican, actually. And she said, you're the only person I could think of to say this to. She said, but I have to say this. And she was troubled by the sort of the bloodlust that she saw about this kid. Granted, this murderer. And she said, I could no more say that. She said, you're the only person I thought I could say this to. And Diane is saying the same thing to me. I was wondering what was wrong with me. My mother said something similar to me the other night. My guess is, well, I don't know. I did not have the nerve to say this on that Friday night show I do on QED 4802. He still had not been he was captured about 45 minutes after that show ended. So on that show, we had some people saying, I hope they kill him, or blah, blah, blah. It was nasty, it was ugly, and it was scary. And I kept trying to push back a little bit, but I didn't say what I was feeling, which was, hey guys, come on now. Come on now. This kid is cornered clearly. We need to take him alive, because they were saying, nah, kill him, kill him. You need to find out as much as you can from him, and you need to get a grip. I hate seeing how scared we are, and with little justification. This is one of the safest places to be in the world. We are so weak. At the Pirate game yesterday I was at. So in the 7th inning, since 9/11, we still, at every Sunday game, have to get up and sing God Bless America because, and again, I don't even think we should be doing that. Could we just get on with our lives, please? And they're introducing this choir of kids who are going to lead us, and I'm fine. I'm standing up, ready to go, sing God Bless America, and some jerk screams out, USA! And I said, oh no. Oh, don't. And sure enough, a few other people started it, USA! USA! And I thought, please don't do this. And thank God, the children's choir started up. God bless them. And shut them up. It's unseemly. It's like we don't even believe we don't believe the very things, when a push comes to shove, that we walk around with our chests all puffed up about. That America is exceptional. Why do you think America's exceptional? Why do you think that? Because we got more bombs than anybody else? That is not what makes America exceptional. America is exceptional exactly because we were the ones who brought this idea to the world that there are laws, and you follow them, and you have principles, and you stand steadfast. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters then. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, Lynn. It's Beth from West Virginia calling.
Hi, Beth.
And just want to say, as soon as I saw Saturday that they weren't going to Mirandize this guy, I thought, uh-oh, we're going down that slippery slope.
Yep.
And, when you hear elected officials saying that they should be tried as enemy combatants, and I thought to myself, what oath of office did you take? Wasn't it to defend the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, is if you're looking at the cultural side of this individual, if you put him to death, you've now just sent him into martyrdom, which I would think is the one thing you would not want to do.
That's true.
There just seems like all logic, all common sense goes completely out the window. And you're right. People have this fear anymore.
How? It's so... I would think people would be ashamed and or embarrassed to even own up to the fear if they felt it. That's what I would think. If I were that scared because of, what happened in Boston, I would keep my mouth shut for fear of looking like a scaredy cat. They don't even have a problem showing I'm terrified.
Exactly. But you know what we've been saying? And this is something you've said years ago, and that was that the people kind of on the right of the political scale are really nothing more than the bullies. They have the big talk, walk with the big stick, but when they're actually confronted,
they're scared.
They kind of run away.
Yeah, they're terrified.
And the interesting thing is that's coming to fruition. It's true. And instead of us showing the world that, look, this is a citizen of ours. This is how our judicial system works.
That's right.
And that way, you're not festering and causing, more of these types of kids and individuals and thoughts. And who knows what the thought could be, political, socially, whatever, however it is they want to express themselves in that violent nature. You're not going to deter them by treating him as a gitmo subject, so to speak. And I just don't understand the illogical thought process of our elected officials. I really don't.
Well, the quickness with which we abandon the very principles which supposedly make us exceptional.
Exactly. Because you know why? It just came to my mind. Are they now doing justice, soundbite justice? I sound tough on crime, tough on terrorism. It'll make the news, and that's pretty much it. We've gone from a soundbite way of conducting our laws and business on the House and the Senate, and now we're doing it this way too.
It's a great disappointment, and you
it
know
really
what?
Is.
It behooves. I was craven Friday night by not explicitly stating what I was thinking, and I've got to toughen up and be unafraid, as do you and anybody else, to push back against this stuff. This is not us. If we're exceptional, it's not easy to be exceptional. It's hard to be exceptional.
It did a little pushing back because out for dinner with some people yesterday, and the one comment was, "Oh, did you hear Obama now wants to take our pressure cookers away?" Oh. And at that point, I kind of took the gloves off and just said, "Look,
that wasn't a joke." It wasn't a
no,
joke?
and they were meaning it as, just kind of that passive-aggressive backslap, and I thought, no, I'm not taking that. First of all, there is a gun problem. It's an embarrassment that our government couldn't do something very simple that the NRA, I said, supported how many years ago in background checks. And let's just say dinner became kind of tepid after that. But
it's too bad. Well, hey, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do
Bye-bye.
appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, my God. I got to take a break. Mm-hmm. Who's been talking so much? Has somebody been ranting? Jeez.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for our inaugural travel guide magazine. Plus, anything goes. Clutch, and a look at how green is the burg compared to other cities. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
It's warming up outside, so get to Little's for all your spring needs. Little's has everything for men, women, and children to stay in style for this upcoming hot summer. Lots of great colors from Dansko, New Balance, Steve Madden, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay. I don't know if any of you saw in Sunday's paper, this is a fascinating graph that if you shrink the world down to just 100 people and have those 100 people represent demographically things like access to education, language, religion, where you live, what gender, what age. And it's much easier then to get a sense of the world. And boy, I wish Americans would look at this again, because, and I understand, I do it too. We perceive the world through our own experience, but our experience is so not the norm. And until we're able to acknowledge that and open our heads, I don't know how we're going to deal with the rest of the world and or not be as terrified by it. Here's some interesting things from If the World Were Just 100 People. 5 of those people would have English as their main language. Now, we think of English being universal now, and I've said it. I've traveled around, and everywhere I've gone, whether I've been in South America or Asia or Europe, people have been able to speak English, because God knows I can't say much of anything in any other country, in any other language. But English speakers by birth are just 5 of the 100 people. The language that represents the most is Chinese. 12 of the 100 speak Chinese. Okay. Housing. We have some homeless people here, but generally speaking, we think, people have a place to lay their heads at night. Well, of the 100 people in the world, 23 have no shelter. 23. 13 have no safe water to drink. 67 of the 100, 67 of the 100, 2/3, are not Christian. And, wow, 11 of them live in Europe. We're just included in the whole Americas. So in the Western Hemisphere, 14 live in the Western Hemisphere and 11 live in Europe. So, I wish they'd broken down the U.S., because that would mean, like, the U.S., maybe 6 of them live in the U.S. or something, and 60 of the 100 live in Asia. This is the world that we live in and that we have to deal with, and in which, if we want to truly spread our values, then we damn well better live them. You spread them by living them, like John Adams did. You don't spread them by abandoning them when things get a little scary. Believe me, a little scary. Embarrassing. I think we embarrass ourselves. I want to thank the Republicans, the party of scaredy cats, the party of people who want to arm themselves to the teeth. They're terrified all the time, and they always have to have something that they're spreading. Scared! Gays are destroying our family. Immigrants are taking our jobs. Black people are getting uppity. Muslims want to kill us. Abandon all of that bull about, our judicial system and fair trials. Screw it! Just round up everybody and throw them away. Kill them before you do if you want, or torture them. And these people pass as patriotic Americans? They absolutely turn their back on everything we have to be proud of. USA, USA. That Neanderthal, guttural depiction of American pride is appalling. and if it's off-putting to a lot of Americans, and believe me it is, you can only imagine how off-putting it is to the vast majority of people in the world who are not Americans. Imagine in that room of 100, let's say 5 are Americans, and that's too much. Maybe 3 are Americans, and those 3 are walking around. Yeah, that's a great way to pull people around to your way of thinking, if in fact that's what we want to do. Dorothea writes, just wondering if you saw the article on the front page of yesterday's Post-Gazette about how Toomey has won over moderates with his support of background checks. I very much hope that Democrats are not fooled by this one gesture on his part. Boy, do I agree with you, Dorothea. As a matter of fact, I see Toomey being referred to as a moderate Republican. More than once. This just in. Toomey is one of the most conservative members of the U.S. Senate. One of the most conservative members. He was a founder of the organization that is responsible for going after, in primary fights, any Republican who dared to deviate from the strict doctrinal, there shall be no government intervention in the marketplace. The Club for Growth, I believe, is what it's called. Toomey is as conservative as they come. That on this issue, he saw an opportunity to maybe make himself a little more palatable. And maybe in his own way, he really thought, this is not gun control, this is reasonable common sense. In that regard, he showed some courage, I guess, in doing so. But moderate? Give me a break. He ain't moderate. He is as conservative as they come. Okay. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? I believe so. So enjoy this beautiful day. I hope you can get out in it and feel that sun on your face. Oh, so nice. And have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow and hope you'll join me. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.